For Dan Orlovsky's very confident the Detroit Lions are going to make the playoffs, and the stat he brought up, which is ridiculous. The Lions lead the NFL in this stat. It's 4.6 yards before they get touched. In the NFL right now, I think the league leader in yards per attempt or yards per rush is 4.4. So the Lions are actually leading in before they get touched. More than teams are in their rushing yards.
And you know what that means? The offensive line is doing their damn job.
They
are moving people to the point where, like you said, they're not even getting touched till 4 yards down the field. And
it's
that's
ridiculous.
We saw it in preseason when the starters got their chance to go at it, and now we're even seeing it with a decimated line, which to me even speaks more volumes for what the hell's going on with the Detroit Lions, because it's like, all right, we have our starters, but now we have depth. When have we ever had that? It's always been, if we lose one guy, well, there goes the season. Might as well wrap it up right now. But now we were down 2-3 starters last game, Pro Bowlers, 2 of them, and no issues.
And I think that speaks a lot to coaching. Like guys like Hank Fraley. We talk about Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's the morning Woodward show man crush. But Hank Fraley has a lot to do with that as well, because anytime you can miss all 3 of your interior linemen and you have backups and you still are able to run the ball effectively, I think they're averaging 7.2 yards per carry right now in the NFL. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's fun. Isn't this fun?
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. And Dan Orlovsky's point is if you could run the ball like that, and the other stat he brought up, which we're going to get into next.
Explosive plays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Explosive plays. So not only are they running the football effectively, guys like Amon-Ra, even DeAndre, explosive plays. And I think that speaks a lot to, being a playoff team.
Yeah, well, they've scored 35 points or more in their last 3 games. That has never been done for the Detroit Lions since 1952. 1952, Jeff. We're talking in the 1900s. We're talking 70 years ago.
My grandmother.
Yeah, it's something that hardly our grandparents have seen. Like, we have never seen a Lions offense this prolific, and I'm not talking about Herman Moore, Barry Sanders, Brett Perriman, all those guys. Even when we had John Kitna here putting up 4,000 yards under that Mike Martz offense. It's a great offense. Not even close. Even when we had Matthew Stafford and Megatron going nuts, and Megatron catching every ball that you throw at him. Not even close to 35 points in 3 consecutive games. Whenever we're witnessing history, I start getting excited, right? Normally the Lions show us history by, setting trends on how they lost. Or this team hasn't won a road game in 27 games. That's how we used to set history. Now it's, they're the most prolific offense in the league.
Yeah,
the Detroit Lions.
No big deal.
We can say that and not get laughed at because it's true.
It is. Through 2 weeks, hoping they can continue that against the Vikings on the road. But speaking of history, Amon-Ra St. Brown last week tied Michael Thomas and Antonio Brown for the most consecutive games with 8 or more receptions. Stick, what's your gut telling you? Think he can break that record and go above those guys this week against Minnesota?
Yeah, and if he doesn't, it may actually still be a good thing for us, because that means Minnesota overcompensated for Amon-Ra St. Brown, leaving other guys to have their day. So, we're to a point now with him to where we have guys that you got a game plan around. Once again, when have we ever had that besides Calvin Johnson? It's like, all right, we take away Calvin Johnson, Nate Burleson may get some catches, but Nate Burleson's not going to kill us. As much as I love Nate on the air,
right,
he wasn't going to kill you if you let him have a day. Now it's like, okay, well, we got to take away Amon-Ra St. Brown. We have to. We absolutely have to. And if they do, I don't know, now DeAndre Swift going to cut
Everybody
you up. Yeah. Now Jared Goff's going to get it to Reynolds. There's just so much more that we can do. It's tough to scheme against us, and when you can start imposing your will, that's when you're a team, right? Mm-hmm. That's what makes the Chiefs so great. People have to game plan for Travis Kelce, for Patrick Mahomes. Used to be Tyreek Hill. But those teams are great because you got to adjust what you're doing to play them. Oh, absolutely. We used to have to chase our tail.
Mm-hmm. And with the Lions, too, it's crazy to think about, because since Kelvin, to say you have a guy that you can – I'm not comparing the two yet. Obviously, Kelvin's a Hall of Famer. But Amon-Ra in the 4th round. I think people, like Neil brought up, are we sleeping on Amon-Ra? And I don't think so, but I think it's hard to process that you really do have a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL currently, right now, on your football team. And last year it was, okay, well, Amon-Ra's a rising star. No, he's here. He's here. I mean, what is he, top 4 in the NFL right now in terms of receiving yards? If he can keep that up, he's going to have a fantastic season. And you can tell it's helping Jared Goff as well. Ben Johnson, knowing how to utilize Amon-Ra and getting him open, man. 8 receptions, consecutive games. I think he'll do it this week. Regardless, I think the Lions, they're going to put up a fight against the Vikings.
Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a problem. I'm not sure if we're taking him for granted. I just think we're all Lions fans, right? I think we take everything with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, it's going good right now, but let's hold our horses. And right. I think that's just years of PTS Lions fandom in us. That's like, this is really good. What's up with this?
It's like Lomas. Lomas on Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, which you can check out, woodwardsports.com. He spoke about it, and he said, don't talk to me until 4 weeks. And I actually think that's kind of fair, to be honest with you, because teams right now, like, for example, defensive yards given up, the Ravens are first. Are the Ravens that bad on defense? No. But through 2 weeks, they are. And you saw what they did against the Miami Dolphins. So I'm not going to overreact to these things. I think even the stat, which we're going to get into next segment, about the Lions generating the most quarterback pressures, it's only 2 weeks. But you could take a lot from these 2 weeks. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But I do want to get into real quick about the Stephen A. Smith comments because, listen, I'm not going to blame anybody for being skeptical about the Lions nationally because we haven't been getting enough love. A lot of national analysts, Dan Orlovsky, even Colin Cowherd to a certain extent, saying the Lions this year just look different. So with Stephen A. being skeptical, I have no problem with it. I get it. I think from a local perspective, we know what we have already, and we know that this culture is a complete 180 from previous cultures, especially with Matt Patricia. So that same old Lions talk, it just doesn't hit. It doesn't hit because it's different for us. Nationally, it's like, well, look at the Lions. They haven't won since 91, a playoff game. But in reality, we know that this regime is night and day different than previous regimes. It really is.
Yeah, you feel it, right? It's a feeling. It's not something that you can tell me. It's something you have to show me, and it's something that we've seen through consistency over the past 2 years. Even last year when they were getting their head kicked in the majority of the games, you saw the fight. You saw the effort. And then at the end of the season, you start to see them, they're actually turning a little bit of a corner. They didn't quit. They're not thinking about Cancun and Tulum right now. Like, they're thinking about actually beating Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Right. This is why when me and Neil Rule go back and forth on, wins don't matter. This is why wins matter. And those crappy wins at the end of the season, those matter because – yes, it's not going to be a linear rollover into the next season, but it's building blocks. It's understanding how to win. It's understanding how to fight. And if you don't have those moments, if you never get those little moments, you'll never get to the big prize. And that's where Neil and I really disagree. And Neil Rule will be live here from Big Boy in Rochester later on today. And we can have that conversation. Make sure you're watching on woodwardsports.com.